Throughout human history, we have uncovered many ancient relics and antiques that harken back thousands of years. Artifacts like the pottery, clothing, written documents, and even human remains help historians better understand our long-gone ancestors. But what if there were discoveries that created more questions than answers? Sometimes we find things much more profound than most. Objects that are so astonishing that they make us question how good our grasp on the past actually is, and paint an entirely different picture of the history of ancient civilizations. From colossal monolithic structures of such architectural complexity that they seem to defy physics, to enigmatic tomes with content so profound that they could flip the logic of the world on its head, there have been many times that the things we dig up from our ancestors are simply baffling. A dagger with a rather intriguing blade in an Egyptian tomb, Roman head found on the other side of the world in Mexico. Even some items that suggest an otherworldly origin. These are some of the most mind-blowing artifacts ever found. 1920s Egypt. Archaeologists are eager to delve into the recently uncovered tomb of Tutankhamun, as it was one of the only remaining sites in the Valley of Kings that had yet to be desecrated by grave robbers. It would also prove to be one of the largest archaeological surveys conducted at the time, with the tomb containing over 5,000 objects, from burial goods, jewelry, clothes, hieroglyphic texts, and even the remains of King Tut himself. Most puzzling to Egyptologists, however, was a small knife found in the pharaoh's antechamber. While at first only seeming to be a small ornamental dagger that was given to the prince as a gift, further analysis would reveal something astounding. Attached to a gold hilt, the blade itself was forged with a rather shocking compound: meteorite. This was baffling to scientists, as usually the metal could only be forged into a blade by melting it down with other materials using a process called smelting, a process that wouldn't be invented by ancient humans until 150 years after King Tut's burial. So, how is it possible that a dagger made from meteorite was in the possession of ancient Egyptians? Was it gifted by allies of some sort of advanced civilization? Did it come from extraterrestrial visitors as they surveyed the Nile River Valley? In 2021, archaeologist Albert Jambon of the Pierre and Marie Curie University in Paris would conduct several tests on the ancient dagger in order to study its metal composition. Using X-ray fluorescence, XRF spectrometry, he was able to determine that it was created using iron that contained traces of nickel and cobalt, which is a composition that is indeed consistent with iron found in meteorites that are observed to fall to Earth for billions and billions of years. According to Jambon, the only likely explanation is that the creation of the blade was forged on accident by primitive processes of trial and error that would amazingly mimic what would later be recognized as the more modern practice of smelting metals. Similarly, Tutankhamun's tomb also held a bracelet and headdress that also had the same meteorite compositions. As to where the pharaoh would have gotten such lavish items from, historians currently have no idea. In June 2016, a meteorite with similar metallurgical qualities was excavated near the Karga Oasis, an archaeological site about 200 kilometers west of the Nile River Valley. However, similar ornamentations to that of the dagger have yet to be found at the site, further deepening the mystery to the enigmatic gift. The Americas are known by historians to have been undiscovered by Spain and most of Europe until conquistadors arrived on Mexican shores in 1519. Yet archaeologists make a discovery that would contradict everything we know about European contact with North America. In 1933, a group excavating the Calixtlahuaca, an ancient Mesoamerican burial site about 40 miles west of Mexico City, would find the figurine of a small head that possessed qualities that were synonymous with Roman craftsmanship. It was found 3 floors below the surface structure, being kept alongside pottery, crystal and gold. The site had seemingly laid untouched since its construction sometime between 1476 and 1510 AD. So how is it possible that such a piece could have made its way across the Atlantic almost a decade before the Spanish did? The artifact was brought to Germany in 1995 to undergo thermoluminescence testing, which determined that it was crafted sometime around 184 BCE to 616 AD, which is consistent with the Roman period, meaning that it predates the Mexican burial site by at least a millennia. Is it possible that the small idol could have been planted at the burial site? This became the popular theory, as it was otherwise impossible for such an item to have made its way to the pre-Columbian America at the time it allegedly would have. There is currently no way for us to know for sure, but Paul Schmidt of the Institute of Anthropological Research in Mexico City would propose this to be the truth behind the mystery, stating that the head had been planted by the original excavation team in 1933. Despite nobody on the team being alive in 1999 to reveal the truth, Schmidt claims that lead archaeologist José García Payon had a history in the community at the time for creating hoaxes, and thus his reputation was not taken very seriously. Although he has no evidence to support this hypothesis, he insists that this is likely the truth behind its mysterious origins in an ancient Mexican gravesite. What do you think? Was the Roman head simply placed there by an archaeologist trying to make his name known in the scientific community? Or perhaps there is some deeper truth here about the relations between Mediterranean Europe and ancient Mesoamerica? Perhaps one of the most recognizable early tools of human civilization is the hammer. Useful in its the ability to strike with great blunt force, it quite literally paved the way to building the foundation for future innovations in architecture and technology. So what would it mean if something so synonymous with our ancient ancestors were to actually predate our species entirely? In June of 1936, the town of London, Texas, would be home to a discovery that would baffle historians for generations to follow. Locals Max Hahn and Emma Hahn would be on a walk one day when they would notice a peculiar rock that looked like it had wood splintering out from its center, and after opening it would find the remains of a hammer. Not just any hammer, however, as it would be determined soon after that the rock encasing was more than 400 million years old. The artifact appeared to have been old, that the handle had begun to turn into coal. For reference, hammers have not been observed to have been invented until about 3.3 million years ago, with those having handles not appearing until 30,000 BCE. Being dubbed the London Hammer, the oddity would later gain large amounts of attention in the 1980s after it was purchased by creationist Karl Bohr, who believed it supported the narrative that humans inhabited Earth much longer than what was proven by science. So is it possible that the discovery hints at an alternate timeline of human history? Well, an easy way to find out the truth behind the mysterious hammer would be to simply sample it using modern carbon dating techniques. However, Karl Bohr has yet to permit any test to be conducted on it, leaving the truth behind its origins to remain unclear. Many archaeologists do theorize, however, that perhaps it was the rock formed around the hammer when it was dropped, possibly by a miner only a few centuries before. The geology of the area contains minerals that are chemically soluble, allowing the rock to have plastered over the tool similar to concrete. The London Hammer is currently on display at the Creation Evidence Museum in Central Texas. As long as scientists are unable to conduct tests on the artifact, its true relationship with early humans will remain shrouded in mystery. Simple tools like the London Hammer are not the only things that have been found hidden inside stones. Geologists would discover another object hidden inside of a rock that is much more shocking in its complexity. In 1961, gift shop employees of the LM&V Rockhounds Gem and Gift Shop, located in Olancha, California, would accidentally stumble upon something that they could hardly fathom. While collecting rocks to be sold at the store, employees would cut into one of the geodes to discover that something was encased inside of it. They found that they had cut into something that resembled a porcelain shaft. The cylinder was about 2 millimeters in length and featured a piece of shining metal within its center. To them, it looked to be a much more modern human invention, a car's spark plug. Of course, spark plugs are an invention that didn't come around until the late 1800s, but the age of the rock would date this one to be at least 500,000 years old. Even more compelling, the store employees would later find objects that resembled a washer and a nail that had been stuck in the rock's crust, alongside small fossils of ancient shells. Additionally, placing a magnet near the cylinder would cause an attraction, meaning that it was in fact composed of metal and even copper. Since its initial discovery, the so-called Congo artifact has been relatively hard to study by curious geologists. Since its discovery, it was known to have been in the possession of Wallace Lane, one of the store employees that had stumbled across it that day. However, in the present day, its current whereabouts are unknown. Eventually, X-ray images were taken of the metallic artifact, and combined with additional artist sketches, scientists have identified it to indeed be a spark plug manufactured by the Champion Spark Plug Manufacturing Company, commonly used in Ford Model Ts during the 1920s. For conspiracy theorists, however, this conclusion has raised more questions than it has answers. How does a 20th century object become entrapped in stones that came millennia before it? Well, there are those that conclude that this is proof that time travel is feasible and has been used in the past in order to place the object where it lay for thousands of years. Others even suggest that this may trace back to signs of extraterrestrial tampering, and there are those that theorized it could have been used in the operation of unidentified flying objects long before human civilization had invented it themselves. Or perhaps the explanation is similar to that of the London hammer, where the mineral makeup of the rock allowed it to slowly encase the small cylinder. As to which of these theories behind this mysterious artifact is the truth, the current consensus is that we simply cannot know for sure, and so the eerie tale of the Congo artifact leaves us scratching our head as to its true origins. One ancient artifact that science does have a much better grasp on, however, is the Alfred jewel. The discovery of the object in 1693 have given historians centuries to look upon it with bewilderment, as its ornate craftsmanship is amazing to have been dated back hundreds of years. Originally found in a field in Somerset, England, this jewel is said to feature some of the most advanced craftsmanship known from the Anglo-Saxon period. Molded in the shape of a teardrop, it features an outer crest of pure gold with floral patterns detailed in and around the center jewel, which is thought to be some sort of crystal. Featured within the crystal is an enamel etching of a man in green robes holding flowers in both hands, whom historians think may be the English Saint Cuthbert. And then there's the inscription that is written in gold surrounding the inner jewel from which the artifact gets its name: "Alfred ordered me to be made." The Alfred in question refers to Alfred the Great, king of the West Saxons between 871 and 886 AD, dating the jewel to be around 1100 years old. The ruler was known to have undergone several campaigns in the area where it was uncovered, likely having been lost during one of the many skirmishes at the time. What is still puzzling to many researchers to this day, however, is how the jewel was adorned. The most popular theories are that the teardrop-shaped crest was originally part of a royal headdress, or the pendant that was worn as a necklace around the wearer's neck. However, both of these explanations would mean that the teardrop would have to have been worn in a manner which displayed the jewel's image upside down, a gesture that would have considered disrespectful for the time. However the ornate jewel would have been worn, its beauty and expert craftsmanship still continue to baffle scientists of the modern era, as it did when first discovered nearly 400 years ago, as it is now on display at the Ashmolean Museum in the University of Oxford. Visitors are able to admire its complexity, instilling the idea that our early ancestors were much more advanced in the crafts than we could possibly understand. Those are a few ancient artifacts that attempt to challenge our understanding of history as we know it, from a weapon crafted from otherworldly materials to objects that seem to make us question our own evolutionary timeline. One could only wonder what other mind-blowing artifacts still lie hidden from the light, ones that could possibly change our understanding of history as we know it.